Corrupt judge thinks he's untouchable until this teen uncovers the truth. When 19-year-old Adam walked into the courtroom, he knew the system was rigged against his brother, but what he didn't know was just how deep the corruption ran. As the trial unfolded, a shocking discovery turned the case upside down, exposing a dark secret that would shake the entire justice system to its core. The courtroom was very quiet. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Judge Gerald Whitmore sat high on his chair, looking down at Sam. He looked like he had already decided Sam was guilty. His cold blue eyes moved around the room. His fingers tapped on the desk. He did not care to listen. He had already made up his mind. Adam sat in the back. His hands were tight fists. His older brother, Sam, stood at the front. His suit was too big for him. The lawyer standing next to him shuffled his papers. He mumbled something, but Adam could not hear. The man looked lost, like he was not ready for this case or did not care. The prosecutor stood tall. He spoke with confidence. He pointed at Sam like he was a criminal. He acted like there was no doubt. "The proof is clear, Your Honor," the prosecutor said. Samuel Carter was at the scene. His fingerprints were found. A witness saw him. The facts are simple. Adam's heart beat fast. That was not true. The witness only saw someone in a dark hoodie. That could have been anyone. And the fingerprints? They were on a table in a shop Sam had been to before. It proved nothing, but the lawyer did not say anything. He did not fight back. He just nodded and looked at his papers. "Your Honor," he finally said, "my client says he did not do this." Judge Whitmore sighed loudly. He shook his head. He looked bored. Adam felt sick. This was not fair. This was a setup. Adam could not stay quiet. He leaned forward. "That's not true," he said. His voice was sharp. People turned to look at him. The fingerprints proved nothing, and the witness never gave a clear answer. This case. "Excuse me." Judge Whitmore cut him off. He raised an eyebrow. He smirked. "Who is this? A kid who thinks he knows the law?" People laughed. The prosecutor chuckled. Even the guard near the door smiled. Adam's face burned, but he did not look away. He was not a lawyer, but he could see what was happening. They were not even trying to be fair. The judge's smile disappeared. "This is a courtroom, not a school. You do not interrupt me." He pointed at Adam. "One more word, and you will be removed." Adam swallowed hard. He wanted to yell. He wanted to tell them they were wrong. But he forced himself to sit back. His heart pounded. His brother's life was in the hands of a judge who did not care about the truth. Sam turned slightly. He looked at Adam. His eyes were sad. He knew how this would end. They both did. The judge straightened in his chair. "Let's continue," he said. "We do not have all day." Adam felt sick. The unfairness had started. The prosecutor kept going, his voice cold. "The defendant has a record," he said. "He has been in trouble before. This is not his first time." Adam clenched his jaw. "That's not fair," he whispered. Sam's past had nothing to do with this. It was not serious, just small mistakes when he was younger. But the way the prosecutor spoke made Sam look like a bad person, like someone dangerous. The lawyer sighed and rubbed his head. "Objection, Your Honor," he said weakly. "That does not matter." Judge Whitmore waved his hand. "Overruled. The jury should know what kind of man he is." Adam grabbed the edge of the bench. He saw Sam breathing heavily, his shoulders moving up and down. Sam was not a bad person. He had worked hard to change, to stay out of trouble. But none of that mattered here. The prosecutor turned to the jury. His voice was smooth. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a mistake. This is a man who has been given chances before and has failed." Adam wanted to scream. This was not true. But no one cared. The lawyer looked at Sam, then at his notes, then at the judge. He looked tired. It was like he had already given up. Judge Whitmore leaned forward. "Let's finish this," he said. "I think we have heard enough." Adam's stomach felt tight. This was not a real trial. It was a show, and they already knew the ending. His brother never had a chance. Adam sat at his small desk. His eyes moved fast over the papers. His hands shook as he turned the pages. He felt angry. The trial was not fair. The judge, the lawyer, the prosecutor, they were not helping Sam. They just wanted to say Sam was guilty. Adam clenched his jaw. He was not a lawyer, but he was not stupid. Something was wrong. The evidence was weak. The witness was not sure. The fingerprints did not prove anything. But no one in court spoke for Sam. No one fought for him. If no one else would, Adam had to do it. He stayed up all night reading. He looked for cases like Sam's. He wrote down words he did not understand and looked them up. His head hurt. His eyes burned. But he did not stop. Sam was in jail, waiting for someone to help. Adam had to be that person. The next morning, Adam sat in court again. His hands were sweaty, but he sat up straight. The trial continued. Sam's lawyer spoke in a soft, weak voice. "We have no more questions, Your Honor," the lawyer said. His voice was almost a whisper. Adam's heart sank. No more questions? The prosecutor had just used bad proof. And Sam's lawyer was giving up? Adam clenched his fists. This was not right. The prosecutor smirked. "Your Honor, as I was saying, the fingerprints. That's not proof," Adam said loudly before he could stop himself. The courtroom went silent. Everyone turned to look at him. Sam's lawyer looked confused. The prosecutor frowned. Judge Whitmore narrowed his eyes. "Excuse me," the judge said. "You again?" Adam stood up. His heart pounded, but he did not sit down. "The fingerprints don't prove my brother was there. They were found in a store he went to before. That does not mean he is guilty. And the witness? He did not even see the person clearly." The prosecutor laughed. "Oh, and what law degree do you have, kid?" Adam did not blink. "I don't need one to see the truth." He held up a paper. "There are cases where weak proof like this was not enough to say someone was guilty. People were freed because of it. You are using bad evidence." People in the courtroom whispered. The judge tapped his gavel, but the noise did not stop. The prosecutor shifted. He looked nervous. "That's silly. A kid reading law books overnight does not make him an expert." "But he's right," Sam's lawyer finally said. His voice was stronger. "The evidence is weak. We should fight it." Judge Whitmore's face turned red. "Enough of this." He glared at Adam. "Sit down and be quiet." But it was too late. The courtroom had seen what happened. A 19-year-old boy had spoken better than a lawyer. And now people were watching. A reporter took notes. A man in a suit whispered to his friend. This was not just another case. People started to care. Adam looked at the judge and did not look away. "I won't be quiet. This is my brother's life." Judge Whitmore's fingers curled around his desk. He hated this. He hated that Adam had spoken up. He hated that people listened. "The court will take a short break," the judge said stiffly, slamming his gavel. People stood up, but the room felt different. Adam turned to Sam. Sam's eyes were wide. For the first time in days, Sam looked hopeful. Adam sat down, breathing hard. He was not done yet. Not even close. Adam's hands shook as he turned the pages. His heart beat fast. He had spent hours looking into Judge Whitmore's past. Now he knew the truth. This was not just about Sam. The judge had sent many black men to prison. He gave them long sentences for small crimes. Now, Adam had proof. He ran to meet Olivia, the journalist helping him. She sat at a small desk, typing fast. When Adam gave her the papers, she read them quickly. Her eyes got big. "This is big," she whispered. "If this is true, Whitmore is corrupt. He works with private prisons. He makes money by keeping people in jail." Adam nodded. "That's why he won't let Sam go. He has done this before. No one has stopped him." Olivia took a deep breath. "We need to tell people." Adam looked at the clock. "There is no time. The trial is almost over. I have to do this in court." That night, Adam could not sleep. He went over the documents again and again. He had to make sure he was ready. The next morning, he walked into the courtroom. His backpack was full of papers. Sam sat at the defense table. He looked tired but hopeful. The judge walked in. His face was calm, like nothing was wrong. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, we have a new witness." A man in a suit walked in. He looked nervous. Adam knew him. He was one of the store clerks from the night of the crime. The prosecutor smiled. "This witness saw Samuel Carter at the scene," he said. Adam stood up. "No, he didn't." Judge Whitmore frowned. "Sit down, Mr. Carter." "No," Adam said. His voice was strong. "This witness was forced to be here. Someone threatened him." The man looked down. His eyes moved toward the prosecutor. Adam held up a paper. "This is a statement from another store worker. He says this man was told to change his story." Gasps filled the room. The prosecutor turned red. Judge Whitmore hit his gavel. "Enough. This is a courtroom, not a circus." Adam took a deep breath. It was time. He pulled the papers from his bag. He walked toward the jury. "I have proof that this judge is corrupt," Adam said. His voice was loud and clear. Judge Whitmore has sent innocent people to prison for years, and he makes money from it. People in the courtroom whispered. The judge's face turned pale. This is a lie, Whitmore shouted. I will not allow this in my courtroom. Adam looked at Olivia. She held up her phone, recording everything. It's too late, Adam said. People know now. A few jurors looked at each other. One of them, a woman, spoke. Is this true? Adam held up more papers. These are cases Judge Whitmore handled. Look at the pattern. The same crimes. The same long sentences. All connected to private prisons. The prosecutor slammed his fist on the table. This is crazy. He's just a kid. Adam looked at him. Then prove me wrong. The courtroom went silent. The judge looked at the bailiff. Remove him. Before the bailiff could move, Sam's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we need to see this evidence. Judge Whitmore's face turned dark. This trial is over. No, it's not, Olivia said, standing. This is being recorded. Soon, the whole world will see it. People in the courtroom murmured. The jury looked unsure. The judge gripped the edge of his desk. He looked afraid. Then a reporter stood up. I want a statement from the judge. Does he deny these claims? More reporters followed, speaking over each other. Judge Whitmore, are these documents real? The judge's face was red with anger. This is my courtroom. I am in charge here, he shouted, banging his gavel. But no one listened. People in the audience had their phones out, recording everything. Adam turned to Sam. Sam's eyes were wide. We did it, Adam whispered. The courtroom exploded with noise. Reporters ran out of the room, eager to break the news. People started yelling. The prosecutor looked panicked. The jury looked confused, some shaking their heads. The judge banged his gavel again and again, but no one cared. The doors burst open, and a group of men in suits walked in. One of them held up a badge. Judge Whitmore, we need to have a word with you. For the first time, fear flashed across Whitmore's face. Adam exhaled. He had done it. The truth was out, and there was nothing the judge could do to stop it. The courtroom was quiet as the jury returned. Adam held his breath. Sam sat beside him, his hands shaking. This was the moment they had waited for. The judge, now looking nervous, stared ahead. His usual confidence was gone. The foreman of the jury stood. He cleared his throat and read the verdict. Not guilty. For a moment, everything was still. Then the room filled with noise. Sam gasped. His body relaxed with relief. Adam jumped to his feet and hugged his brother tight. Tears ran down Sam's face as he held on to Adam. He was free. The prosecutor looked shocked. He shuffled his papers but had nothing left to say. The judge gripped the desk in front of him. His fingers turned white. He looked like he wanted to speak, but no one was listening to him anymore. Reporters rushed forward. Cameras flashed. Microphones were pushed in front of Adam and Sam. Olivia, the journalist who had helped uncover the truth, stood in the crowd, smiling. She gave Adam a nod. They had done it. Outside the courthouse, people cheered. Sam stepped into the sunlight, taking a deep breath. He had spent months in a small cell, wondering if he would ever be free. Now he was outside again. Adam stood beside him, feeling proud. But the fight was not over. Judge Whitmore was in trouble now. The news had spread everywhere. Every TV station was talking about his corruption. More people were coming forward. Men who had been wrongly jailed, families who had lost loved ones. The truth was spreading fast. Within days, Judge Whitmore was under investigation. His past cases were reviewed. Lawyers and reporters found more proof of his crimes. He had taken bribes. He had sent innocent people to prison for money. The justice system had protected him for years, but now he had nowhere to hide. A week later, Whitmore was removed from his position. A new judge took over his cases, promising fairness. Soon after, the former judge was arrested. Cameras caught him as he was led away in handcuffs. The man who had destroyed so many lives was finally facing justice. Adam and Sam watched the news together. They sat in their small apartment, still trying to understand everything. Sam shook his head. I can't believe it's over. Adam smiled. It's not over, Sam. We just started something big. Sam nodded. He had lost so much time, but now he had a future again. Thank you, he whispered, for never giving up on me. Adam put an arm around his brother. We never give up on family. The world had changed for them. The fight for justice wasn't over, but they had won this battle. And together, they were ready for what came next. The next morning, Sam woke up early. Sunlight filled the room. He stretched, feeling light for the first time in months. Adam was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a newspaper in his hands. The front page showed a picture of Judge Whitmore in handcuffs. "He's done," Adam said, shaking his head. "They're charging him with fraud, abuse of power, and corruption. He might spend the rest of his life in prison." Sam took a deep breath. "Good. He deserves it." Adam nodded. "And the men he sent away? They're getting new trials. Some have already been released." Sam smiled. "That's real justice." Later that day, they returned to the courthouse. Not for a trial, but to meet with lawyers helping other innocent men. Olivia was there too, ready to report the next story. "People need to know the system is broken," she said, "and they need to know how to fix it." Sam and Adam sat in meetings, listening to stories from men who had suffered like Sam. Some had been in prison for years. Others had lost their families, jobs, and homes. Sam clenched his fists. "We have to help them." Adam nodded. "We will." Days turned into weeks, and soon, Sam and Adam found themselves working with legal teams, speaking to reporters, and fighting for justice. Sam, once afraid of the courtroom, now stood inside it with confidence, helping others find their freedom. One day, a young man approached them outside the courthouse. "You don't know me," he said, "but I was supposed to be sentenced next week. Because of what you did, they're reopening my case." Sam felt a lump in his throat. He reached out and shook the man's hand. "You're going to be okay. Keep fighting." Adam watched with pride. Their journey wasn't over, but they had turned their pain into purpose. They had fought a broken system and won. As they walked away from the courthouse, Sam looked up at the sky. "It's a new day." Adam smiled. "Yeah, it is." They had fought for justice. Now, they were helping others do the same. Their story was not over. It was just beginning.